Jerry, can you give us your take on what you think the current prospects are for the Welsh economy?
Well, the Welsh economy, I think, faces a sort of dual prospect, really. One area of it is going to be under severe pressure, and that's the public sector. We know that the government is determined to try and get the overall UK deficit down, so it's cutting. Wales has got a larger public sector relative to the rest of the economy than other places in the UK, so it's going to suffer disproportionately from that. Capital spending is going to fall by more than half in real terms over the next 4 years, which is a huge drop. And even ordinary revenue expenditure is going to fall by about 10% in real terms. So that side of the economy is definitely under the cosh. It's in for hard times. Now, on the other hand, the pound has gone down quite a lot recently, so that those companies which are selling abroad, particularly if they're selling to North America or to Asia rather than to Europe, probably have rather better prospects because they've become more competitive with the lower pound. So I do see it's not all doom and gloom. It's pretty gloomy on the public sector side, but hopefully we can see some improvement in some areas of our manufacturing.
Because a lot of people say that a lot of this is out of our control, it's driven by the Treasury and sort of economic conditions. And there's a sort of counter-argument that you should have more powers to actually intervene in the economy. But people are also saying, you pick up in the pub really, people say things like, well actually we've only just got legislative powers, isn't it a bit early to be talking about extending powers into other areas?
Well, I think there is an issue as to how much experience there is in the Welsh Assembly and in the government, but the point is you never get any better unless you practice. So I think to some extent, whatever you're looking at in life, it's only actually doing it that enables you to do it and to get better at it. So I think in the longer run, most people now do understand that the Welsh government will only act in a competent and responsible way if it has some responsibility for raising its own revenue. And there may be a learning period, but we have to go through that at some point. So why not now?
There's a lot of talk as well, particularly driven by the situation in Scotland about Devo-Max, and to what extent do you think we are following the sort of lead in Scotland, and what impact do you think the events in Scotland are having on Wales at the moment?
The brutal truth is we can't follow the lead of Scotland because their economy is not in balance, but their budget to deficit is much smaller than the Welsh. Our budget deficit is twice the size of ours, even before you take oil into account. We're now in a situation where the excess of public spending in Wales and for Wales over the taxes raised in Wales is something like £12 billion a year, at least. It's getting on for 30% of our Welsh GDP. So our taxes wouldn't sustain our expenditure. In Scotland, if they cut a good deal, they can get close to that. We can't. So we have to find a different way. We might want to aim for that in the longer run, but right now we just can't do it.
We're running a competition here this week called Rising Stars Cymru, which is about spotting talent amongst the young housing professionals. What would you say to them in terms of some hope of optimistic sort of outlooks going forward as well regarding the sort of Welsh economy?
Well, I do think that necessity is the mother of invention. Since we've had devolution, public expenditure rose in England and in the UK as a whole, and we got a good grant that was growing fast. Arguably it should have been a bit bigger, but it wasn't bad and it was growing. Now that's not the case. Now the grant is frozen or shrinking. We just have to think harder about how to do things, and I think we can. I think the Welsh people are sufficiently ingenious that they can find a way through this, and now we really have to. So that's if you like, the bad news is the good news.
Thank you very much.